There's been a hearing recently. The Americans want to extradite him based on entirely fabricated charges of espionage. When he's not even an American citizen and he didn't sell any information, he basically provided it to people in the public interest, as Daniel Ellsberg did, which effectively got us out of the Vietnam War, because they were lying to us about that as well. If the people of this world don't stand up for justice for the people of this world, we'll all be living under tyranny before we know it. You know, one of the reasons there's not 10,000 of us here right now is because we take our freedoms for granted. We assume that our institutions are honest and they're doing the right thing. But today is the anniversary, I think it's the 18th anniversary of the invasion of Iraq, which is one of the most ridiculous things, in my opinion, this country has ever been involved in. Serve no useful purpose for Australia or even people in the Western world that I can understand. The various governments of the Arab Peninsula were cooperating with the Western world, trying to develop, build a detente, build friendship, build trade, and we've effectively killed approximately 4 million people, as far as experts predicted. And in addition to that, we've created 35 million refugees and we've blown up 7 countries. Can you get a handle on that, folks? We need to stop this madness. When people like Julian Assange come out and give us the hard evidence of what stupid, stupid political things are being done in our name, we need to start saying, well, we've got to change a few things in this world. We've got to stop dropping bombs on people, start dropping books on them. We've got to stop buying bombs and start paying money for education for everybody, and to make sure everybody gets some semblance of sensible justice. This is a global issue. There's people demonstrating all over the world to saying Assange has got to be freed, and we cannot allow governments to tell us what to do. If we don't do any harm to anyone, we can't allow governments to enforce us to be vaccinated with God knows what, which is well known not to be proven safe so far. Now please come and join us, everybody. Stand up for freedom and stand up for human rights, or you will lose them as quick as a wink.
So hello everyone, Sydney-siders. We are the Julian Assange Town Hall gatherings, and we're here every Friday from 5 p.m. till 7 p.m. until Julian Assange is freed from jail. That's our commitment. Rain or shine, we'll be here from 5 till 7 every Friday until Julian Assange is released from jail. Yesterday, Thursday the 18th of March, Federal Member for Bruce, Mr. Julian Hill, spoke in support of Julian Assange in the Australian Parliament. By way of background for you, let me tell you that Julian Assange is an acclaimed Australian publisher and editor of WikiLeaks, and this is an online news service which permits the provision and publication of information and news from anyone on matters of public interest. Julian Assange is an Australian, a dad of 2 lovely young boys, a partner to lawyer Stella Morris, and Julian was born in Townsville, Queensland. Julian has won dozens of international awards for journalism, including Australian awards. He is a member of the Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance, which is a peak Australian body for Australian journalists. Julian Assange has been nominated over 8 times, and please correct me if it's more than that, over 8 times for the Nobel Peace Prize. On all accounts, we should be proud of Julian Assange. I am proud of Julian Assange. We are all here in this group proud of Julian Assange. But the United States administration in particular the Justice Department during the Trump administration, have decided to prosecute Julian Assange for his role in the publication of factual videos and information on gross war crimes committed by US soldiers in Iraq, Afghanistan, and in Guantanamo Bay. Those documents and videos show how US soldiers killed, I repeat, US soldiers being shown on video, killing with repeated machine gun fire Iraqi children and civilians, and 2 Reuters journalists, amongst other crimes of similar nature, including the torture of civilians in prisons such as Abu Ghraib. The reason the US government decided to prosecute Julian Assange was to make him an example to all other journalists who would consider publishing information that is embarrassing to the US government. That is Julian, our mate, inmate in a UK prison. So that's a little summary for you, but I want to tell you what Mr. Julian Hill, Member of Parliament, Federal Parliament, said yesterday in Canberra. He said the following as a reminder to our parliamentarians. Julian Assange is an Australian citizen. He has never been convicted of any crime, yet he has been locked up and confined for years now. He's facing extradition to the US on an effective death sentence on trumped-up, politically motivated charges. 2 months ago, a UK court found on humanitarian and health grounds that Mr. Assange should not be extradited to the US. Yet, still today, bail is withheld from Julian, and he is locked up, isolated in a maximum security UK prison with murderers and rapists, at risk of death from COVID-19 because of his poor health conditions. And his health continues to deteriorate in that prison. As the Labour leader, Mr. Albanese, has said clearly, this has been going on for long enough. Our Prime Minister and his do-nothing Foreign Affairs Minister, Senator Payne, need to act now to bring Julian Assange home and prevent his extradition to the US. His health and his life depends on that. Parliamentarian Mr. Hill continues. As the UK court found, if Assange is extradited to the USA, he will face extreme isolation for 175 years. Imagine that. We'll be all dead, he'll be dead. His sentence will continue on, 175 years. But even worse, charges carrying the death penalty can be laid the minute Mr. Assange arrives on US soil. I'll repeat this because it is of great concern to us, and also because the Australian government is against the death penalty. But as soon as Mr. Assange lays 1 foot on US soil, he can be charged with other matters carrying the death penalty. No national security defendant has ever succeeded in the Eastern District Court of Virginia. Assange will be buried alive in the US justice system. Ironically, he would be treated worse than those responsible for America's war crimes in Iraq and Guantanamo Bay, which Julian Assange and WikiLeaks exposed. If Julian even survived this case, his matter would circle through the US justice system for years and decades. It would just go on, and a never-ending prosecution. But remember this, apart from the legal niceties, we are talking about a man who is a broken man after 10 years of persecution. an Australian whose health is precarious and who needs to come home. For years now, the Morrison government has uttered empty words to avoid responsibility. But the persecution of Julian Assange must end now. The President Obama commuted Chelsea's Manning's sentence, and that was the person who provided the material revealing war crimes to Julian. But it is Assange, the publisher, who is still in jail. With the right diplomacy, the Biden administration could conclude these proceedings immediately. Immediately, they would be ended. Now the US is currently appealing the UK decision not to extradite Assange. And this could take months or more. Australia must now ask that President Biden, our closest ally and friend, should accept the British court decision and just drop the charges, just drop this prosecution. Friends and allies must speak frankly with one another and strengthen shared values. The treatment of Julian Assange corrupts our alliance with the US and makes a mockery of the UK justice system and of international law. The British court's decision was the right decision, but for the wrong reasons. And it's been made on very narrow health and humanitarian grounds. Mr. Assange's mental and health condition is such that it would be oppressive to extradite him to the United States of America. But the judgment should be concerning for any person who worries about human rights and the rule of law. Our Prime Minister has been speaking a lot about the rule of law over the past week. We know why. We know about Mr. Porter's and the rule of law. But if our Prime Minister really cared for the rule of law, he should bring Julian Assange home, because political crimes should never form the basis for an extradition request. And this case is inherently political. It is designed to mute, to silence whistleblowers and investigative journalists globally, not only in Australia. Julian's defense has said that this case poses serious threats to the fundamental freedom of the press throughout the world. It is a flagrant denial of Mr. Assange's freedom of expression, your freedom of expression, my freedom of expression. We don't have to personally agree with Mr. Assange and WikiLeaks. But that is not the point. Whether or not we agree with them is not the point. People should not be prosecuted for their political beliefs. People should not be prosecuted for engaging in journalistic activities. People should not be prosecuted for publishing embarrassing footage of war crimes in Iraqi and journalistic activities' behavior. It is astonishing that the UK court failed to see through the blatant political nature of this prosecution. On almost every point, the judge agreed with the arguments of the US government. This case sets a dangerous precedent for others around the world, because under the court's logic, anyone, anywhere in the world, who publishes anything that is embarrassing to the US government could be extradited to the US. I'll repeat that. I think it's important. Anyone, anywhere in the world who publishes anything that is embarrassing to the US government could be extradited to the US. This verdict has given the US what they sought. They wanted it. They got it. So this situation now needs a political solution, not a legal one. We need a political solution to this matter. The Australian government must speak up for our citizens. They cannot keep on hiding behind talking points about legal processes and people being prosecuted overseas having a day in court. That is simply hiding the need to take effective action. It doesn't matter if you agree with Assange, it doesn't matter if you like Assange, it doesn't matter if you dislike Assange. He is an Australian man, he is an Australian citizen, he is an Australian publisher. He has the same rights as you and me, and is entitled to the protection of our government. Mr. Julian Hill calls on our government to do the right thing and save Julian Assange. Thank you, Mr. Julian Hill.
Yep. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Sydney Town Hall. I've been arrested here more than once. I got arrested downstairs one time. I was busking and this man, this is about 50 years ago, and a ticket collector arrested me and I didn't have any identification. I wasn't on the dole, I didn't live anywhere. He threatened to smash my head into the wall. That's another story. Okay, now, let's see now. I'm just getting used to this guitar. Now, how does it start?
Chime in.
Thank you. One. Doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, does it? All right. Your dirty little secret ain't a secret anymore. We know what you're doing in your dirty little war. It's the same thing you've been doing time and time before. Your dirty little secret ain't a secret anymore. Helicopter gunship crew thought they were all just actors. There it is, there's the 5 chimes now, yeah. The helicopter gunship crew thought they were all just actors. There's video of men and children used for target practice. WikiLeaks released it. It's not rumour now, it's fact, it's evidence of cowboys shooting up the town. And your dirty little secret ain't a secret anymore. We know what you're doing in your dirty little war. It's the same thing you've been doing time and time before. Your dirty little secret ain't a secret anymore. It's hard to keep a secret in the age of information. Push one little button and it's on every TV station. And anyone that isn't blind can see the situation now, 'cause Julian Assange is around. And your dirty little secret ain't a secret anymore. We know what you're doing in your dirty little war. It's the same thing you've been doing time and time before. Your dirty little secret ain't a secret anymore. Once upon a time, you know, when I was in my youth, the US Army war machine would cover up the truth. But they can't do that anymore, 'cause now we've got the proof of the way they like to throw their weight around. And your dirty little secret ain't a secret anymore. We know what you're doing in your dirty little war. It's the same thing you've been doing time and time before. Your dirty little secret ain't a secret anymore. Remember that expression? Don't shoot the messenger. Well, Julian Assange is a messenger. He's not a traitor. He held up a mirror to the people of the USA to show them what is really going down. And your little secret ain't a secret anymore. We know what you're doing in your dirty little war. It's the same thing you've been doing time and time before. Your dirty little secret ain't a secret anymore. Your dirty little secret ain't a secret anymore. Your dirty little secret ain't a secret anymore. Thank you very much, thank you very much. I'm here all week. Try the veal. Thank you.
So today's the anniversary of the airstrikes in Iraq. In 2010, WikiLeaks released a video called Collateral Murder. It reveals airstrikes in Baghdad on the 12th of July 2007. It showed the crew of 2 US Apache helicopters fire on a group of men, some of whom were civilians and some of whom were Reuters journalists. A van with Good Samaritans and kids soon came across the injured and the dead. Another person came to help. They too were cut down by the airstrike, killing the men and injuring the children. The air crew laughed and joked about the death of these innocent people, like they were playing a video game, like they did not believe these people were human, like them, like you, like me. Ethan Gideon Sean McLeod is a US soldier who arrived shortly after his troop heard the shots. They found the injured kids in the van and decided to help. Afterwards, he was blamed and threatened by his commanders and commanding officers. He was told he was a pussy and to get the sand out of his lady parts. Ethan heard the cry of a little girl around 4 years of age. He and the 20-year-old private came across to the minivan. The private looked into the van, started to reel back, vomiting, and he ran away. The girl had a stomach wound and was covered in glass. Ethan grabbed the girl and took her to a nearby building where he pulled glass out of her eyes so she could blink and handed her off to a medic. He then went back to the van as he was ordered to take photos. And then he came across a little boy around 7 years of age who he thought was dead given the severe wound to his head. The father was dead and he died hunched over his children in a protective manner. Ethan took the boy to the medics. He asked to take the severely injured children to a US medical facility for help. He was told that this would not be allowed. They would have to go to a local Iraq hospital, which of course did not have the same facilities as a US medical station would. Both children survived. One of the crewmen of the Apache helicopter was told there were children injured. He uttered, "Oh damn, oh well it's their fault for bringing their kids into a battle." Another said, "That's right." But they were home and they were going to school. The battle was brought to them by the US and the coalition of the willing, including Australia. Assange is locked up in prison for trying to bring truth to the people and publishing the video known as Collateral Murder, which shows this crime. The chicken hawks like Bush and Howard and Blair are free to make millions on talking tours and government and commercial organisations and boards. They are not the ones that went out there to kill innocents. They are the ones that destroyed the lives of so many of their own soldiers who were either killed or came back broken and suicidal. couple of days ago, Ethan wrote on his Facebook page that the little boy, Sanjay, who he saved by his actions, had died in a bomb explosion. He's back in the arms of his father. Ethan said his heart is broken. Ethan is incredibly brave and incredibly human. God bless you, Ethan, and Julian Assange, and all the men and women who stand up.
We're now going to observe 1 minute's silence for the millions of people that have died in Iraq and Afghanistan and other wars. Today marks the 18th anniversary since the illegal war commenced with an air invasion of Iraq. Today, 18 years ago. So to honour those that have died, we are going to observe 1 minute's silence. Thank you. Thank you.
No more wars.
Let's end these wars. These endless wars serve no person on earth except those that profit from war. A very small handful of people profit from war. And millions have died, and tens of millions have had their homes destroyed, their cities destroyed, their schools destroyed. These wars must end. Even the soldiers that fight in the war. I read a statistic the other day. There's been approximately 5,000 American service personnel die in these war zones, but in the same period, 128,000, 25 times the amount that have died on the battlefield, have committed suicide on home soil. For every soldier that's died on the battlefield, 25 have committed suicide. That tells us about the American war machine and the Australian war machine. These soldiers cannot live with themselves. They perpetrate these crimes and then they go home and they cannot live with themselves. And they kill themselves at 25 times the rate that they die on the battlefield. So in fact, the soldiers that are perpetrating these crimes are also the victims of the war machinery that spreads propaganda to convince those soldiers that they're doing the right thing. And David McBride is our own homegrown hero.
He was serving in the Middle East and he saw what was happening and he couldn't live with it. And he came back and he tried to go through the correct channels, but he was stopped at every corner. So he blew the whistle. And he freely admits that he wanted to end his life. But because enough of us stood up and said, David McBride, you are a true hero. You are an honourable man, and thank you for bringing this to our attention. We have saved his life, and we should be proud of that fact. So let's end this perpetual war by standing up and defending Julian Assange, because he's the one that's revealed all these crimes to us. This is the 69th Julian Assange Sydney Town Hall gathering. If you value freedom, please gather with us every Friday to call for Julian's freedom. Julian's journalism revealed we cannot trust our governments or the media, so we know our battle is unprecedented. Until Julian is free, none of us is free. We will continue to fight for his freedom no matter what. Julian's political persecution has persisted for more than 10 years. During that time, various Australian governments have assisted in his persecution by not standing up for him, even though they have been kept informed about his suffering due to the psychological torture and medical neglect. If we don't question the behaviour of our government, we can expect our freedom to be taken from us too. Just before Julian was effectively silenced at the end of March 2018, while he was still at the Ecuadorian embassy in London, Julian warned that our generation may be the last free generation. Today, just 3 years later, there are clear signs Julian's prediction is becoming painfully true. Vaccine passports are being promoted around the world. Oppressive measures are being used to discourage and prevent political protests in many previously free countries. And the idea of a social credit system looms on our horizon. Julian Assange understood the dangers of digital surveillance technology better than most of us, and it is clear we would all benefit greatly if we could hear his voice today. The finding against Julian's extradition from the UK to the US should have meant he would be free right now. However, he remains in maximum security prison, so the United States can appeal the no extradition decision and thereby continue his psychological torture. All of this could be rectified if enough people could realise the truth. Propaganda in the mainstream media keeps people from knowing the truth. We must be able to find out the truth if we are to be served by science, justice, or government. Nazi collaborators took orders and went along with Nazi propaganda. We have a culture that is guided by the propaganda narrative. As Caitlin Johnson has said, whoever controls the narrative controls the world. People were misled by a mainstream narrative that proclaimed weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, which resulted in millions of people needlessly losing their lives based on a lie. We need a new culture that is guided by truth. We need a culture of truth. In a culture of truth, narrative based on lies would be treated with suspicion. In a culture of truth, evidence would be used to form the basis of collective knowledge. Julian Assange is a highly respected journalist who used digital technology to move us towards a culture of truth. We must also work towards such a culture. In a culture of truth, free speech would be encouraged. Censorship would have no place. Social media deplatforming would have no place. Political persecution for revealing politically embarrassing facts would have no place. We clearly must move to a culture of truth. Governments and corporations keeping secrets from the people is not a conspiracy theory, it's a fact. It is clear we need to know what people with the power to conspire against us are up to. All human voices were meant to be heard. Do not allow your voice to be discriminated against. Speak up. Engage democratically. Stop the atrocities of subservience. Journalism is not a crime. Free speech is our right, and nobody can take that right from us. It is vital for the survival of humanity that we move from a culture of narratives to a culture of truth. Media asserting fabricated narratives to further the aims of corrupt power must be allowed to die. We must work with truth. We must free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. Thank you.
We are all Assange.